He's to everybody. So, as of yesterday, the principal chief, David Hill of the Muskogee Creek Nation, uh, issued an executive order. He is trying to implement the Supreme Court's decision regarding the freedmen. At least he's giving lip service to that. It's very obvious, given the verbiage of this, that in reality, here's what's going on. He's delaying the decision. That's my personal opinion on the issue, and I agree with him for doing that. Now, he's going to discuss matters with local Muskogee communities regarding how they feel about bringing non-Indians into the tribe and how that's going to affect tribal resources. He's going to talk. He's bringing in a couple people that are going to be under oath, that are going to be unpaid, and they won't be part of certain aspects of the government officially because they're not employees. And there's going to be some completely confidential meetings that the public is not going to be allowed to have access to, and that others outside the meeting are not going to have notes or recordings of, because it's completely going to be private. Now, you can see where this is going. He's trying to hide the information from the people that would try to obstruct what he's doing. And in my opinion, he is obstructing the decision of the National Council. Supreme Court, not the National Council. Got to correct that, okay? He's obstructing the decision and opinion of the Supreme Court regarding the freedmen becoming citizens. So I'm okay with this. I'm okay with his obstructing them, because here's the thing. As I mentioned in a recent previous video, the principal chief is under oath, and the only one with a clear-cut, laid-out oath of office in our Constitution. He is the only one who has that oath written out word for word. It does mention the National Council is supposed to also swear the oath of office, which implicitly would be the same oath, but it doesn't explicitly state what that oath actually is for them. And it doesn't say, unless I'm missing something, again, that the Supreme Court justices even have to swear an oath of office. But my understanding is that they are swearing the oath of office, which means even if the Constitution doesn't require them to do so, they've still done it, and they're still obligated to uphold the 1979 Mvskokvlke Nation Constitution, by which they derive their power. Because under that Constitution, the principal chief is the one who appoints them. And he's under oath to uphold that Constitution. And the Constitution says, by blood. Citizenship is by blood. Okay? So he's going to talk to local communities about how they feel. Because here's the thing, and people are commenting rightfully so on the Muskogee News Facebook page. They're right to say, hey, if I set up an appointment now to go to see the dentist, I might see them in October. What month are we in? It's the night of April 21st, as I'm recording this. And yeah, I mean, when I was dealing with contract health, it would take roughly a month to get a decision as to whether or not my appointment that's happening about 30 days from my previous appointment was even going to be done. And I actually made sure to call the Okima Hospital, the contract health services, to make sure, like a week in advance, I would call them and make sure that it was going to get covered. And I did that because my Aunt Arlene told me to do so. She knew the system, she knew the game, and she knew how to play it. And a lot of people won't do that, apparently. But I did it, and I got the help I needed. But I mean, here's the thing, like, I didn't see the dentist at all. I was seeing orthopedics. I was going to see regular doctors as well at the Okima Hospital. You got people that are having to deal with dental stuff, and sometimes it can go faster. I mean, maybe this person on Facebook is exaggerating, but a lot of people are complaining that it takes forever to get stuff done. Now, part of that could be on them not actually making all the necessary phone calls, and the appointment happens sooner but the decision from contract health happens later. I realize it's been many years since I actually was in the contract health services, or having to deal with them, I should say. And so there might be more stuff at a local level. There might be more specialists hired to actually work at the Muskogee Nation hospitals. Okay. Instead of having to go to Tulsa all the time like I did, which was fine. I mean, I had a great surgeon. I had the best surgeon in Oklahoma, and he's better than the surgeons I had in California prior to that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a process, and some people are just not good at playing the game, and they don't want to play the game. They want it to, be easier for them, and I get it too. I mean, look, maybe it does take longer for some people for whatever reason, and Muskogee Nation contract health does make you jump through all the necessary hoops. They do want you to apply, or at least they did at the time that I was there. Want you to apply for, you know, um, local, it was a DHS. I mean, it's different here in California, but I think it was DHS. They wanted you to apply for what we would consider to be Medi-Cal out here. And so getting state-funded medical help and also food stamps. They wanted you to file for all this stuff. They want to make sure whether you had a bank account or not. They wanted to make sure that you were doing everything on the up and up. They would help you in the meantime, and then once you were denied by DHS, they would definitely continue to help you. You just had to, fill out all the paperwork and make sure you got a referral before you went to that appointment outside of the Creek Nation hospitals. You know, but a lot of people need help out there, and if you add, I mean, the numbers that he was quoting in his executive order, it's a pretty large number of potential freedmen citizens. That's a huge strain on the system, and we already are strained. Now, I'll be the devil's advocate for a second. Yes, Muskogee Nation has bought a piece of property in Alabama to act as sort of a cultural center where we are represented in the original homeland. And personally, I think stuff like that's important. Other people living in the boundaries of Muskogee Nation might be like, well, we could have used that money to feed somebody or give them rides to the clinic, or and they wouldn't be wrong to feel that way either. So I get it. Either way, if you add potentially 100,000 non-Indians onto the rolls, what's that going to do for the Indians that are currently enrolled and in need of all the tribe services that are offered? What's going to happen then? So I think it's very important that Principal Chief David Hill goes and talks to the local communities and explains to them, and of course, bringing in these people that are going to help him out to get all the necessary information, get the actual numbers of what, like, one, try to get better numbers as to how many actual, like, freedmen citizens are potentially eligible for citizenship, for one, and two, like, what kind of strain might this potentially put on the tribe? And then what kind of services are going to be even further delayed or even eliminated altogether? Like, all this stuff has to be considered. And yeah, running it across the citizens who are living there, because right now, if you're not in Muskogee Nation, the services you get are very limited. Like, I get Head Start for my son because he just turned 7. Okay, we live in California. We're in Southern California, and so, but am I going to get my medical bills covered out here by the tribe? No. There's IHS out here, but it's like 2 hours away. Like, we really don't get a lot of stuff out here from the local IHS, right? Like, even if IHS was right next door, I may still not get that much help. I don't know what they all offer, but I also know they're like 2 hours away, and it's not that feasible. I'd have to move to that town for it to be even feasible to take advantage of their services, right? So, so I have insurance through where I work. Not everyone has that in Oklahoma, or specifically within the borders of Muskogee Nation. A lot of people rely upon tribal health services. Okay. I mean, we also have College of the Muskogee Nation, I mean, yeah, there was the disappearance of apparently millions of dollars in casino money. We don't know what happened to that. If that story is true, we don't know what happened to the money. And that's definitely a concern. I get it. Devil's advocate. I'm going to be upfront with things like that. But how much would that money stretch anyway if we brought in 100,000 more citizens and we're not getting additional money from the federal government to support those people? You see what I'm saying? Like, I want to say we're doing okay as a tribe, but the reality is for the need that we still have, like it's not fully being met and not in a timely manner. I mean, we're doing better than most tribes, like, and we have been, but that doesn't mean that we're getting everything that we need as quickly as we need it. So there are delays. Okay. My situation was more emergency. And then once I got in the system, you know, because of the emergency situation I was in, like things moved a little bit faster, but I still had to follow up on them constantly just to make sure everything was happening. So I didn't show up, you know, with nothing to show for when the doctor says, okay, who's paying for this? Um, that's the thing. And don't think for a second that the Creek Freedmen are not going to want to take advantage of every single service that we have at our disposal. And don't be surprised if we don't get enough funding from the federal government and that then certain services have to be inevitably canceled. Like even if that however many millions of dollars were to magically show up, like how much is that going to stretch just for those 100,000 alone, potential 100,000 freedmen, not to mention the remainder of the by blood citizens? Like how much is 25 million if that's really the number that's correct? That's the number that pops up online, right? People say that number. I don't know if it's actually a correct number of missing funds. But even though things are cheaper in Oklahoma than they are in California, when you're dealing with a large number of people, even 25 million is not that much money. It really is. And people don't realize that. I wouldn't say it's a drop in the bucket, but it's a small percentage, I'm sure, of the overall funding that is necessary to keep the nation running. So I could be wrong. I don't think I am, seriously. So no, Principal Chief David Hill is doing the right thing. He is fulfilling his oath of office by every obstruction that he is doing, it seems, to delay. Yeah, every effort he's making to delay implementing the policies that the Supreme Court of Mvskokvlke Nation has decided to implement with their ruling. Like he is delaying it, and it's obvious that that's what's going on. And he's doing the right thing for the tribe in the process. He is fulfilling his oath. They are oath breakers. He is not an oath breaker. So Principal Chief David Hill, if you're watching this, if you or your family are watching this, thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing to keep our nation alive and intact. I greatly appreciate that. I love Mvskokvlke Nation. I wouldn't make all these videos if I didn't love Mvskokvlke Nation. This channel has become pretty much a Mvskokvlke Nation channel, mostly because of the Freedmen issue and because I think it's important for the future of our tribe, for the present and the future of our tribe. I feel like we need to stay focused on the actual Indians in the tribe, not non-Indians, regardless of people's opinion about the 1866 treaty and what it actually says and what it actually implies. And whether or not, people want to believe that, the whole tribe made this noble and sacred decision to just bring the freedmen and make them equally citizens with equal everything and yada yada, this whole kumbaya thing that they pretend is happening. That's not what really happened. There was pushback in the immediate years following the Creek Treaty of 1866. there was pushback. So it wasn't some great big unanimous decision, and some great covenant that we made with our creator that people right now are trying to do with their myth making right now. They're building a modern myth about what happened in 1866, and they're getting people riled up. And I really appreciate you holding the line, Principal Chief, because you are doing the right thing for the tribe. And other people are coming around. People are seeing that. When you talk practical numbers, when you gather that information, that is going to convince more people. You gotta show people that, because they can't just go on with this whole narrative of, oh, we just got to do what's equal and right, and we don't want to look racist. Like, of course we don't want to look racist, and we're not racist. We have people of every skin color in our tribe who are all by blood citizens, by the way. They all have Indian blood. Okay, that's how our Constitution is set up. And, that's the way it is. I totally agree with that being the case. I don't think anyone should be excluded for their skin color, but they need to share our blood. And that's just the way it needs to be. And I agree with that. I agree with the Constitution in that regard. I believe that was a safeguard put in because of issues just like this that people were seeing, they were foreseeing back in the 1970s. And I'm not saying all of them were the noblest, most amazing, sacred individuals for what they were doing, but I could see that they were looking towards the future of the tribe. And I think they made the right decision to make it by blood only. And I'm grateful that you were trying to keep it the same. And, you do have support from people of all skin colors within the tribe. I know that for a fact. So keep doing what you're doing, because you've got my support. You completely have my support. So, Mado. And for those of you watching, please get your ballots going. I've already requested my absentee ballot. I'm still waiting for it to come in the mail. I called them a week ago. I'm going to call them again in a couple days and see what happened. But they're willing to email it as well. So get your Mvskokvlke Camp House portal set up. And of course, register to vote, because your vote's going to matter in the special election. And this is something that we as the people should be voting on. And we need to make an informed decision on this issue. We can't just be spoon-fed a narrative that certain people want us to think is the case and think was the case back then. We need to look at here and now and the implications of the immediate future and the far future, because we got to think about our own children and grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and our great-great-grandchildren, because this can affect all of them. This can affect whether there even is a Mvskokvlke Nation in the future. So go out and vote, okay? And till next time, Hadam Chichatlis.